Welcome to East Meets West, episode 410. I'm Tom Merritt.
And I'm Roger Chang.
We're old people now. We talk about our roofs.
You know, one of the things you don't appreciate about owning property that you soon keenly appreciate as soon as something goes wrong is that you're responsible for whatever mishaps, whether it's the roof.
I think everyone you say one of the things you don't appreciate. I think everybody appreciates that.
Well, this is the thing. Like, at my apartment,
that's the thing I hear most commonly from people are like, I don't know if I want to buy a house because then I'm responsible for everything.
I
feel like everybody knows that.
No. Like when I remember when I was looking for a house, everyone was like, "Hey, I gotta get it on the property ladder before," because this is 2009.
I mean, I hear that too. These are not exclusive things, though.
Oh no, yeah, but like when I was renting in San Francisco, my roof leaked all the time, but I didn't care. It's like, well, it leaks in the corner of the apartment I don't really do anything in, so it doesn't bother me. I'll let the landlord know.
You're not saying everybody. You're saying you.
Yeah. And so, I'll put the bucket there, and if it craps out, it craps out.
You're saying when you rented, you didn't worry about having to be responsible, but now that you do own...
but the roof is any roof damage, that's his responsibility. It's not my responsibility.
No, that's what I'm saying. Is back when you rented, you're not saying everybody does this. You're saying when I rented, I didn't care about it. But now that I'm a homeowner, I'm kind of frustrated because I'm responsible. It's a pain.
Now you got to look at the dollar amount, the quality of the people that could do the work.
Yeah,
all these things, and it's like
to me, that's the big thing. Is I'm like, you can tell there aren't a lot of millennials owning property because we don't have a really disrupted home repair situation. All the ways you find home repair people are either very old fashioned, like almost like look it up in the yellow pages, or it's some .com era thing like Angie's List that's just stuck around and is kind of, it works, but it's very, very 2000s, not very 2020s. Whereas picking a bank or get a restaurant or anything, there's all these like hot new ways to take the pain out of the issue and make it really easy.
I mean, even you did this car purchases.
Yeah.
Totally disrupted. I'm wondering if it has something to do with the lack of actual, one of the things I was noticing, was it PBS or like the NewsHour or something, they were doing on the fact that all the trade professions, whether you're a plumber, carpenter, all the stuff that goes into building a home or maintaining a home, that age group has gotten progressively older because, over the years, fewer and fewer young people have gone into those particular fields. And so, because there are so few available people around that are, I guess, qualified to do it, they're always in constant demand. So there's no disruption unless you can disrupt the supply by injecting.
I'm skeptical of that report.
Think so?
I'm very skeptical of that report. And the reason I'm skeptical, and this is not me saying it's not true, because I haven't researched it, but that is a constant refrain in local news stories going back to the 70s of people aren't entering the trades anymore, and only the old people really know what's going on, meaning it's hard to find good help.
I mean,
I'm looking at that. I'm like, that's always been the story. It's never been as true as it sounds. So I'm skeptical. That's all I'm saying.
That's the legitimate thing to have. I mean, one of the big areas you'll find it, at least according to this report, was elevator repair, because the number of elevator technicians has slowly dwindled as
same reaction. Like, but has it? Because I don't know. I've had a lot of people working on my home lately, and they aren't old. They're not young, but also the young people are the ones who are the assistants who come in, and I see them. I see, younger person helping with my landscaping, younger person coming in and helping the plumber. My personal experience does not bear this out. I'm only one data point. I'm not saying that disproves the story. I'm skeptical. That's all, because that
that's
makes a good headline, and
that
it's the kind of thing that people at the diner can be like, yeah, I saw that story, man. Like the kids these days, they just don't want to go into the
no,
trades
it's
and
not
learn
that
everything.
it's
No, I'm not saying you're doing that. I'm just saying,
no,
like,
no.
that's why they run those stories, because they
But
know
that's
they get
not what
pickup
the-
and people
but
talk
see,
about
that's
it.
not what the story said. The story said that for years it was always pounded into young people that you needed to get a college degree and get an office style job in order to kind of see the kinds of income like in the 6-digit figures. That's the only way. And the story was saying, well, a lot of plumbers, electricians make in well excess of 6 figures annually, and that it was actually half the story was about young people getting into the trades where they would have previously worked for.
Well, wait, that's different than what
Well, no,
what
no,
I thought you were saying at the beginning. And so
no,
maybe I just misunderstood you.
This was a two-parter story. One of it was like people
Oh, so they did the buzzy thing to get people talking about it, and then they did the journalism at the end. Is that
Oh
what
no, there's journalism on both ends. I think you're putting your own skepticism before the actual story cart, which was that as demand for those trades increases, it becomes an economically viable path.
But that's just always been true. So
I-
I don't know that there's really a story there. I could be wrong. I could be totally
wrong. You can go argue with the producer of that story. And
that's
say,
why I'm saying I'm not saying it's wrong, because I didn't see the story and I haven't researched it. But if my spidey sense begins to tingle when I'm like, yeah, I've heard this before, and I'm not.
your
not
spidey
sure
senses are 50-50, honestly. I mean, like
my spidey senses are 50-50?
In general, anyone's gut reaction is always 50.
Oh. But what about mine?
50. I don't know, because I don't know what sets up.
I think mine are better.
I mean it's
I all joking aside, I do have, and you do too, honestly, a more finely honed sense of checking, detecting BS in stories. So don't get me wrong. The fact that it made it past your BS sensor is a positive in the story's favor. Although you do tend to like to run with a story that lets you complain. So
that's true. But I will say, at least in my experience, it was hard to find a roofer that would be able to do the job.
Really?
The one reason I went with the company I did was, one, they offered a 10-year warranty on labor and a 50-year warranty on materials, but also they could do the job right away. The other 4 quotes I got, the next earliest would have been at the end of May, which was too late.
End of May. Oh wow.
Yeah, and the other guys wouldn't be able to start till the middle of the summer, because it's like I got jobs back to back. Like I won't be able to do this until
I didn't run into that at all. Of course,
I had my whole roof replaced.
This time I went for. So when did you have your roof replaced?
I had it replaced in end of March 2018.
Okay, so before supply shortages and everything.
Yeah. Oh no. Yeah. This is before
Just
supply
making,
shortages.
Just checking.
So
because when I had my patio thing, I called up. I got a roofer right away who was able to do it right away. I mean, right away being within a few weeks, right? Not having.
Oh yeah. And what I did was, the 2 months prior, I was literally getting quotes from 4 to 5 different roofers. One guy I contacted was down in East LA, and he was quoting me like 25, 30K. And he was telling me all these programs I take advantage of to help lower my rate. It's like, I'll think about it. And I went with 3 suggestions from next door, and one of them was the company I eventually used. And the other 2 were fine, but they just couldn't start until one was the end of May, the other one wasn't until the middle of summer. And I was like, I need this right away, because the city's going to blow out my sidewalk, and they're starting that in the middle of April, right? So I need to get my roof done, because if that doesn't get done, then it's going to take another 4 months until that's all done.
Yeah.
And they can start on it. So I was like,
I think the moral of this story is, it's really somebody needs to come in and create a really good way to narrow down and find reliable home maintenance people.
I agree. I mean, I've kvetched about this. Like, how do you find a good review that isn't just loaded with, marketing or someone just?
You can't look at Yelp, and it's just too full of weirdness. Yelp does things to stack the deck in favor of people that it wants to cultivate a relationship with. people who write negative reviews tend to overdo it because you don't even have to be a customer to write it. I don't think there's as much grassroots like sabotage going on as people
no,
think,
I don't
but it can
believe that. I don't
happen.
believe that.
So I like that there's like a home advisor or an Angie's List out there where it's got a pipeline where you have to have been a customer to leave a review and all that. But also that means the reviews are going to be more favorable because those companies definitely put pressure on people to leave the review positively and to relieve it fast before something breaks. Right? You may be perfectly satisfied the day your job is over, but are you going to be satisfied 3 years down the road? Like, your opinion may vary, and you don't get to go back and change it.
Overall, I can say with at least my company, overall I'm satisfied. I'm not like totally happy. Like they left a lot of nails around my property. They were done that I had to go.
Yeah. Little things where you're like, man, if you were above and beyond, you would have cleaned this stuff up.
And I mean, that was one of the things they said they would clean it, go through with a magnet and clean all the nails. I was like, dude, I have like a bandolier of nails someone left on the roof.
Yep.
You know, like brand new. They haven't used them. It's like,
I have one of those too from one of my previous roofing jobs, and I just snip them out and use them for stuff sometimes.
I kept them, but they're really long and they're only good for roofing or if I'm like sandwiching 3 2x4s together. But it's there are all these things that when you talk about anything that's home related, the first thing that pops into at least in my mind is how much is it going to cost me?
Oh yeah, that's the first thing that pops into everybody's mind.
And
how much is it going to cost me, and will it be done right so that I don't have to pay for it to be done again?
And so one of the things when I was researching all these things and I was looking at, maybe I'll need a water heater. Like I look at all the things that I might eventually need, like plumbing and all that stuff. But I was running through it. I realized that there's so many different things, or not different things, but different things that are related to the same thing that it's really hard to find certain things. For example, I need my chimney, the outside, the exterior replastered. Can't find anyone or anyone that will respond to my request, either by phone call or email. The two I did call, or not call, I did get feedback says we don't do that kind of work. So I'm trying to find, is it just a general contractor? Because I haven't heard any replies back because maybe the job is too small and they don't want to
And the thing is, there are definitely qualified people who will do that for you for a good job at a reasonable price. They exist. You're in Los Angeles. They exist. There's no doubt about that. But you shouldn't have such a hard time finding them.
I honestly
I feel like it's harder to find them now than it was back in the days when you just opened the yellow pages, right?
Because I think partly is because at least I'm somewhat swayed even unconsciously by like reviews. This guy is terrible. He sent my house,
right?
And it's like, I have the same thing with, I really lucked out because I have an auto mechanic that's less than a mile away from where I live. And he services only Hondas and Toyotas, and I drive Toyotas. So it's perfect. But like, that is one of the things outside of finding a dentist and a doctor.
Yeah.
It's just like,
well, and there you go. Here's what I look at. I look at all of these new startups that are essentially health management organizations on top of health insurance, right? To say like, look, if you don't want to join Kaiser, join Carbon or Forward or one of these. Yes, you'll have to pay extra on top of your insurance, but we will take care of finding, good dentist, good doctor, manage your health. Now, whether they're good or not, I'm not evaluating, but the idea is there, and there are multiple competitors trying to be the like, we'll take the pressure off. You just sign up with us, and we'll make sure you can always get an appointment fast and all of that. That's music to everybody's ears, right? There needs to be something with home, and I feel like there's just enough millennials buying houses these days. We're going to see that. In like within the next 5 years, we're going to see the like, don't worry about your home anymore. Sign up for this startup and whatever your problem, you just call us and we'll take care of it.
Like a home warranty program like they currently have, but one that's actually good.
Yeah. Home maintenance program, not home warranty. Because home warranty, it generally just covers appliances and it's a scheme. that wants to make you feel covered without ever having to pay you for anything.
Yeah.
Whereas these health insurance situations, they're just charging you a monthly thing to hook you up with services that your insurance is going to cover. Granted, maybe the home is more complicated even than health insurance in that, because it's like, well, what gets covered under your fee and what do you have to pay for? But personally, I'd pay a fee that's like, you still have to pay for all your home maintenance. We'll just guarantee that, your work will be warranted every time, and you'll have certified professionals and, a complaint process, and just take out the guesswork of finding the people, right?
Yeah. And that is really it. It's just,
it's like a concierge service almost.
Because, finding someone who's good at that work and that you can trust, and the trust is like the key element. Like if they tell you something like, oh, you're going to need to fix this and probably replace it, but you can get by without doing it right now, but I highly recommend it. Like my car, like my water pump is going, but I haven't changed it yet because I don't drive enough. But my mechanic's like, yeah, it's getting there. You're probably going to need to swap it out, but well, you should probably wait until you need other work done on the engine, because I need to take the side off. And if I do that,
and that saves you labor costs because you only pay for the time once. Yeah, that makes sense.
He's an old Chinese guy, so I trust him intrinsically. But he's not that old. But he's
probably our age, but yeah.
Yeah. Oh no, he's definitely at least 15 to 20 years older than me.
All right. Well, that would put him. Oh, then you. Okay. Yeah. He's not.
Than me. Not not you, Tom. Me. But like when someone says stuff that to you, you don't feel, especially like I've been using him for the past 4 years. He charges me at or below what the dealership would cost me on all the work that I've had done. Mm-hmm. So and I've used the dealership twice where I live, and originally I thought like, well, it's a new place, I should just go with the guys who deal with the car. But after talking over with the shuttle driver that takes you from the dealership to your home, as one of their service perks, I asked this like, like about the place, and he was telling me like, yeah, it's all right. We pay the mechanics, yada yada. And I was like, really? It's like, that's a pretty low dollar amount for a mechanic, especially considering they have to work on all these cars. Just that's average. But it gave me an idea of the sense of when I was paying. I thought I'm getting like a 40-year-old worth of 40 years worth of auto mechanic experience. Getting into it. And it's guys have gone through the Toyota mechanic program, but like I don't know. It just seemed excessive. Like everything I was paying seemed very excessive for the amount of work done. And then when I went to the guy I go now to, everything he does is usually, again, at or at least 50% cheaper. And it goes for oil changes, struts, bits on my engine. And I'm like, just go with this guy. It's closer. I can walk to it. Ticks off all the boxes.
The way I look at that stuff is the reason the dealership is cheaper is peace of mind. You are less likely.
The dealership was more expensive.
No, I'm sorry. The reason the dealership is more expensive is peace of mind. You are less likely to have a dealership do something wrong. Now, they may not do it the cheapest, they may not do it the most efficient, but they want that car from you, right? There's lots of motivations. They want the reputation. They want to have that car in good shape when you trade it in so they can sell it and not have to do a lot of work on it. But you're paying for not having to think about it, not having to shop around, because they know a lot of people are just going to come to them because they're the dealer. So they can afford to charge a little more, because if you have to shop around, you can find a cheaper price, but now you're taking on the risk of, is it cheaper and better, or is it cheaper and worse? You've found what I have found in the past too, cheaper and better, which is the ideal situation, but not everybody has time to suss that out, right? So that's how the dealership, I think, validly can charge more. Is like you're paying for not having to spend time looking around and know you're going to get a decent set of work. Might not be the best, Might not be the cheapest, but it's right there in the middle. And I think for some people that's valuable to just do that.
That is definitely the case. I will say there have been a couple of issues with that particular dealership in terms of service, but it is what it is. But
well, that's what I mean. It's not.
Yeah.
I'm not saying the dealership will always be perfect, but the dealership will be average.
Yeah.
You're not going to get ripped off. You're not going to get fully ripped off. And granted, I'm sure there's one person listening like, I got ripped off by a dealership. It's like, yeah. Whenever you say 70% of something happens to people, the 30% it didn't happen to will pipe up and tell you. But for the most part, dealers are right in the middle of the road.
And I know enough about cars to know what they can and cannot do. In terms of like, when they tell me they're going to do something, I always ask for the mechanic when I talk to them. I don't want to talk to the service order guy because they don't know or they aren't looking at my car.
Mm-hmm.
But it's one thing I found helpful, at least when I was dealing with my roof and stuff, I learned a lot about roofs, over the course of 4 months when I was researching, who to go with. I lucked out because my father-in-law was a former iron worker, so he's very well familiar with construction, both buildings and homes, and all the things, the processes that go into it, what to look for. So it was a big help. But like just having some of that knowledge beforehand to know and get a better idea of how to judge a particular place or service, is pretty helpful. But again, I like the idea of having that disrupted where, you don't need to be a weekend expert on, how to do your own plumbing and how much of a degrade you need to on a pipe in order to have it self, flush when you have water through it. All these things that you don't think of because it's not your thing, and that's why you're hiring someone else to take care of it.
I was raised to think that you should do everything yourself, but if you can't, you should know enough to make sure that you you can be certain the person doing it is doing it right. That's the way I was raised. That is not scalable, nor is it efficient. That is what I've come to learn in my 50 years on this earth, is that, first of all, not everybody can be expert in everything. And it's ridiculous in this complex society we have created to expect that. And you just hit on the second one, which is it's also not efficient. It's cool that you brushed up on all that stuff and now you know it, but was it really the most valuable use of your time? The older you get and the more skills you have and the higher paying jobs that you can get, above, working in a restaurant, bussing tables, the more valuable your time becomes. And at a certain point, it makes more economic sense to just have someone else handle all of that and not have to teach yourself.
To handle that stuff and to have a warranty on it. So if something does go wrong,
have a system of some sort, a warranty or a really strong reputational system or a concierge that you trust, whatever it is, right? Yeah, something like that.
And I think you hit the nail on the head. It's the peace of mind, because like when you're stressing about stuff, as you get older, your ball of stress doesn't necessarily get smaller.
No.
Especially if you have kids. In fact, it goes quite the opposite. So the less you have to freak you out, the better off the quality of life it ends up being.
Yeah, because people can't build everything in their house. Think of it that way. You could create a thing. If I say like, could you create a laptop? Well, I could build a laptop. I could buy the parts. Could you create the parts? Can you run a fab and create chips? At some point, you have to rely on something else to make modern society work. Now, granted, you can go off the grid, get some solar tech that's long lasting, change your lifestyle so you don't have to rely on people. But that's not living in the modern society. And that's a whole other conversation. But if you just want to live an average life, you kind of need other parts of society. And
you do.
That doesn't, and I'm not trying to be socialist when I say that. I'm just like, you can't build everything that you want in your life. Like if you want a refrigerator, can you really build it yourself? And would it make sense? Would it be worth your time? Or is it better to just go, spend $200 at the Best Buy and get one?
Everything, the whole argument is really about how you want to balance out these things. For some people, if they enjoy working on their car, have at it. That's your hobby, not my hobby, or not anymore. And it's how you want to weigh all these various attributes of your life, right? Like what you were saying, is it worth your time investing that amount of time? Like when I was caulking all my windows right before the big rainstorm, it's like, it's only about 2 hours of my time, peace of mind, and I have this caulk. And you do that. But other things, I think, you especially when it comes to things like medical issues and stuff like that. I mean, unless you somehow can figure out, you're a doctor somehow and you can self-diagnose, you're going to have to go to someone.
Well, and I always worry, even if I were a doctor, I have blind spots, right? You want an independent opinion to be like, you keep saying that, but that's, you're missing something. And that's important. Much more. You can't do surgery on yourself. So
yeah,
I mean, I guess you could. It's
you can
difficult.
do it within reason. I mean, it's one of those gee whiz sci-fi things.
Yeah.
Whether it's Star Wars, the back to tank, or
right,
where you have a machine that.
Now, all that said, I don't want it to sound like I think DIY is bad. I think you hit on an important point. Is it's enjoyable, and if you enjoy DIYing something or fixing it yourself, you absolutely should. Like that, throw the cost analysis out the window if you're enjoying it. There's also a satisfaction you get from doing something yourself. I think people should do some things themselves. I don't think people should totally abandon doing everything for themselves. That's the other side of this. But you shouldn't have to do everything yourself. I guess that's what I'm saying. You should be able to choose, like, you know what? I just really like plumbing, so I'm going to do the plumbing on my house because I dig it. Or I just really get satisfaction out of learning it, and knowing it, so I'm going to do it. But you can't know everything. There's just too much. So you have to pick and choose. And for the rest of the stuff that you're not going to DIY or learn yourself, there needs to be a better way.
Yes, definitely.
Please disrupt home repair, Gen Z.
Oh, and also car repair too.
Yeah, car repair would be all right. That'd be a good one. I'm with you on that too. Thank you for listening. Thank you for hanging out with us. Of course, East Meets West, subbrilliant.com/EMW is the home. If you want to tell folks about it and pass around the links. Anything else before we go, Roger? I never say that.
It's a Happy New Year.
Yes.
Happy
New Year. Good to be back, everyone. Have a great 2022.
And we'll see you next month.
Bye.